Hi, everybody. I am so thankful to be here with Janet Campbell, CEO of the Joy Smith Foundation. Her mother is, of course, Joy Smith. This is an incredible foundation, Canada's largest human trafficking organization. In terms of prevention, it's the largest organization Canada has. It's doing incredible work all across Canada. And I am so thankful, Janet, that you are here with us today. Thank you and welcome.
It's great to be back. So thanks for having me and looking forward to our discussion.
Yes, me too. We are going to talk about the No Harms Act, Bill C-63. But before we do that, I just want to quickly highlight something that the Joy Smith Foundation is doing the week of August 17th to, is it the 24th?
Yes, it's all week. Yes.
Yes, different groups of people across Canada are doing fundraising across Canada. And so how is that going? Can you tell us a little bit about that? You guys must be very busy right now at the office.
Yes, this week is a lot of fun. So we do have joy in action activities taking place right across the country. And it is an incredible opportunity for us to elevate the issue of human trafficking in every community across our country. And the funds that get raised during Joy in Action are incredibly important to support the work that we do at the foundation and providing the services that we do. So we have a lot of fun. We raise a lot of awareness and knowledge, and we also get to raise funds for our programming, which is great.
That is so amazing. We had a team a few days ago, this past August 17th, and we put together a worship and prayer event, and the Lord moved very powerful in our prayers. So we were really grateful to experience him.
We're so grateful to have you a part of this. And we get many wonderful stories from teams across the country as they participate in this effort, and it grows every year. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you, but it was really our honor. Let's talk about the Online Harms Act, Bill C-63. For those that are not familiar with this, can you just tell us what is this?
This particular bill actually has a number of different parts to it. So it's called the Online Harms Act, and it does address a range of online content issues connected to the work that we do here at the foundation in human trafficking, but it also expands beyond that to include hate speech and crimes, both online and offline, actually.
Sometimes I've heard this bill referred to as the No Harms Act. Have you heard of that as well?
Yeah, I have, for sure.
Okay, and why, out of curiosity?
Well, I think perhaps because part of the bill really extends beyond the online harms into hate acts that can happen in person as well as online. It is the Online Harms Act, but I have heard people refer to it as the No Harms Act.
Who exactly is affected by this bill? Like, can you speak into that?
This bill is very far reaching, actually, and could impact every Canadian. There are elements with the bill that are very good, but there are a number of elements with this bill that sort of take away from the good elements, in the sense of our focus at the foundation is always to protect children, and we work with those that have experienced horrendous ordeals with human trafficking. And oftentimes those cases also connect to online activities that take place. And it can be exploitation. It can include using the online space as a way to connect, lure, groom, and exploit victims. So this is an area that we're very passionate about, and yet I'm very concerned with this particular bill and how it has been put forward, in the sense that it doesn't have the focus of protecting children and the online issues that we encounter. The bill does extend to a broader conversation around hate speech and crimes. Also introduces a bureaucracy around supporting the reporting and enforcement of the act, and that would be a very bureaucratic environment. So in our work, we see individuals that are affected by organized crime, gangs, and entrepreneurs that are doing things that fall under the criminal code. Human trafficking falls under the criminal code. There are elements to those activities connected to the online world that really need a lot of focus and support right now for the agencies that work in this area that I don't see in this bill.
I wondered about
Now,
that.
would you-
When people that don't know much about what's going on in the government, and we just hear that bills are coming out, I think a lot of us don't think much into them. And so this one was highlighted for several reasons, obviously, because it's about human trafficking and protecting the children of our nation, right? And so it just gets you thinking, well, how does this affect organizations like the Joy Smith Foundation? You guys are really fighting for the protection of children. What are some loopholes? Can you talk about any loopholes that this bill has? Maybe you already hit on those loopholes.
I think the important thing to think about when it comes to this issue is that those that perpetrate these crimes are moving very quickly, and they are using online spaces in order to be able to access, lure, groom, and exploit their victims. And we need to with our work, make sure that we're practical, informed, and meaningful in our efforts. So from my perspective, the bill needs to focus on just that. And it needs to get away from the other focus of the in-person hate speech and all of those things. I think that one of the things, if you look at the history of the work that my mother did in Parliament, she made Canadian history passing 2 private members' bills that amended the Criminal Code of Canada. And she did that in a minority government. And she was able to accomplish that because, first of all, she took a very informed approach to the issue. She took a very focused approach to the issue. And she was able to get consensus from all sides of the House in a minority government in order to move her bills forward. And when I look at Bill C-63, I think there's a lot of discussion around this. There's a lot of controversy. And so what that does is it takes away from the opportunity to do some good things and move the line forward with respect to online content and some of the challenges that we have and law enforcement have in working on these cases. So I think there are lessons to be learned in this area. And it's really important that people have the opportunity to be informed. And so, on the surface, Bill C-63, you think online harms. That's great that we should take steps in this direction. And when I look at the work that we do, and from a very practical standpoint, for me, this is a non-political issue. The issue that we work on every day is a human rights issue. And, people should be protected. They should be safe. And when somebody victimizes them, there should be tools and mechanisms that our law enforcement agencies and judicial system can use to be able to go after those that do this. So for me, a bill that combines the online harms element along with the other aspect of hate speech, both in person and online, it takes away from me, it kind of neutralizes the focus that we could have in protecting children and the importance of protecting children. So from my perspective, it really needs to stand on its own.
Who created this bill?
This particular bill has been, it is a government bill, so it's not a private member's bill. It's not a specific individual. It's been brought forward by the government. So I believe officially it gets tabled by the Justice Minister. But interestingly enough, the elements in this bill that, from my perspective, are concerning actually existed years ago and were actually removed in and around 2014 because of some of the challenges that they represented with respect to freedom of expression of opinions and those types of things. And so that has existed. There are other bills that are making their way through the parliamentary process now that also focus on elements of aspects within this bill. So there's some overlap that's happening there as well. There is an all parliamentary group that focuses on ending modern day slavery. That is their focus. And two of the individuals within that all parliamentary group have bills that are moving through the parliamentary process right now. So there's S210 that Senator Julie Melville Duchesne has moving through the House. And that's a very important act to amend the criminal code as it relates to pornography. The senator's bill is an act to restrict young persons' online access to sexually explicit material. And I can tell you a lot of stories about what I see every day in our work in that area. That's a very important bill. The other bill that I mentioned that is to amend the criminal code with respect to pornography is a private member's bill that was tabled by MP Arnold Viersen, C270. So each of these pieces of work are, I think, important as it relates to the work that we do, focused on ending modern day slavery, human trafficking.
I'm so thankful for your very thorough explanation in this. This will be my last question. After you've explained all of these details, what's one thing we can take away from our conversation today, from what you've taught us today, that we can hold on to and just continue to think about?
I would give you a few takeaways. First of all, this is a complex issue. And while there does need to be more legislation, I think that it needs to be very focused and purposeful. We need to work from a place on those issues where we can all agree and separate those areas that we can't get consensus, because it does hold up the ability to put protections in place. I think as well that as much as there is legislation in place already, there's barriers. There are barriers with equipping and supporting our law enforcement agencies to be able to carry out their work in enforcing that. There are barriers in navigating through the judicial system. And so, I think there's lots of opportunities for us to move the line forward, even with existing legislation that we have already. I think the other thing to consider is that government, law enforcement, they can't solve all of the problems that we have. And one of the things that we have power and control over is our ability to engage in building on our knowledge and awareness of this issue and helping to empower and mobilize our own community so that we have an atmosphere where this type of thing isn't welcome and where it doesn't happen as readily. So I think those are three things that I would think about as important takeaways.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Janet. And thank you for being with us a second time. It's a really huge honor and a privilege. And thank you for your sacrifice and hard work over all these years. Yeah, it is absolutely incredible. And for our listeners, continue to go to the Joyce Smith Foundation website, look at their social medias, look at ways that you can advocate in whatever town or city you're in, get involved in some measure, small or big. It really makes a difference.
It sure does. So thank you so much for having me again, and feel free to reach out for any support or questions that you may have along the way.
Thank you so much, Janet. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. We will see you next time.